The envelope arrived on a rainy Wednesday, wedged beneath my apartment door as though the wind had delivered it. No return address, no stamp, just my name, Ava Meridian, written in heavy graphite, the strokes deliberate and slightly smudged. Inside was a single index card. If you would see a swan shatter, come to the Leland City Ballet Studio. Rehearsal 3 p.m. Do not intervene. Simply watch. A friend of the floor. Nothing more. I reread the note twice while the radiator hissed at my ankles. My calendar was already crowded. A fringe circus at the docks, a new improvised opera in a converted laundromat, and a deadline for my newsletter, Meridian Arts, that paid precisely enough to buy coffee and bus fare. But the phrasing was too perfect for an amateur prank. Friend of the floor. Dancers, like magicians, trust the floor more than gravity itself. I arrived at Leland City Ballet's converted warehouse 15 minutes early, flashing a press lanyard that I'd printed myself. The guard barely glanced up. Inside the vast rehearsal hall, daylight poured through a clerestory and made stripes along the marley floor. Dancers warmed up quietly, wrists bending like reed stalks, backs arching into bridges, tendons thrumming. Today they were running Act 2 of Swan Lake, and Lysandra Mikhail, principal, prodigy, rumoured perfectionist, stood at centre, already wearing the feathered headpiece for Odette. She raised her arm and the room held its breath, as though the movement itself had issued a command. Even my practiced detachment flickered. I am supposed to carry skepticism like a camera lens. Instead, I felt the old wonder quicken. At 3:07 the rehearsal proper began. Maestro Elias tapped his baton, the pianist launched the adagio, and Lysandra stepped into her opening arabesque. She was so precise she seemed to shave silence off the air. 2 phrases in, she executed a double pirouette, landed, and prepared for a grand jeté. Her right foot slid forward, too far, too fast, and the famous Lysandra crumpled. The sound was not loud, only a dull clap of muscle against floor, but every body in the room recoiled. I saw her left ankle bend, saw the pain bloom across her face before she could mask it. A gasp spread in ripples. Maestro shouted, "Someone killed the music!" Stagehands rushed. I looked instinctively toward the wings. No one there moved, yet I felt the echo of that anonymous command. Do not intervene. Simply watch. The company nurse and the assistant artistic director, Anton Vega, crouched beside Lysandra. From where I stood, I could hear her swear in Russian, English, then Russian again. She pointed at her feet. "I Rosin. I always Rosin," she hissed. Floor, greasy. Greasy, the Marley looked spotless. But the minute she said it, I remembered the envelope. Swan shatter. Anton ordered everyone to clear the floor. Dancers gathered their warm-ups, voicing shock. I pretended to check my phone so I could linger. While the nurse taped Lysandra's ankle, assistants inspected the surface. I knelt, pressing my palm to the scuffed plastic. Perfectly dry. Then something glittered near the rosin box, a smear like translucent amber, thin as breath. Of course, rosin itself glitters, but it is brittle, friable, not viscous. I pinched the smear. My fingers came away slick. A stagehand barked, "No one rosin here 'cept the dancers." He sounded indignant, which told me he felt accused. A second smear clung to the rim of the rosin tray. I lifted it to my nose. Faintly sweet, faintly chemical, like cough syrup left on a radiator. I pocketed the shard. By 4 o'clock, Lysandra had been carried to the staff van. Destination, Mercy Orthopedic. The rehearsal was cancelled. Chatter ricocheted. Insurance, understudies, refunds. I drifted to the lobby's payphone alcove to call my friend Beatrice, a freelance chemist who owed me a favour since I once exposed the city's grant committee for plagiarising her research proposal. "Can you test an unknown sample?" I asked. "Sure. How illicit?" "Possibly sabotage." "Ooh, arts drama. My lab's free after 6. I hung up and felt the shape of the afternoon change, a plotline tightening. The envelope, the smear, Lysandra's fall. Coincidence was a couch I never sat on. Outside, dusk bled violet. I walked the 6 blocks to Beatrice's building, replaying the moment of impact. Lysandra's foot sliding as though on ice. Classical floors demand friction, which dancers manufacture by crushing rosin beneath their slippers until the powder clings like chalk. Alter that equation and you turn the stage into a skating rink. Beatrice's basement lab smelled of burnt sugar and acetone. I presented the amber fleck in a fold of newsprint. She raised an eyebrow, donned gloves, and set to work with solvents and spectrometry. I roamed the shelves, gawking at labelled jars, linalool, potassium permanganate, fumed silica, until she summoned me. "Mostly pine rosin," she said, "but look." On her screen, coloured peaks illustrated the molecule party. Someone added glycerol and a fraction of mineral oil. This would soften it, keep it tacky. But mix that with sweat and pressure, it becomes slippery. Exactly. It won't evaporate, so it lingers invisible. Could this happen by accident? If you store your rosin near hand lotion, maybe, but this ratio is careful. Deliberate. Deliberate. The word hummed like a tuning fork. Someone had weaponized what was meant to save dancers from harm. I thanked her, slipped the sample back in my tote, and caught the crosstown bus. Rain streaked the windows. My phone buzzed with alerts. Lysandra Mikhail injured during rehearsal. Articles speculated sprain or fracture, 6 to 8 weeks. The company's official post said nothing about rosin. I stared at the headline and wondered if the anonymous informant was satisfied. They had predicted a swan's shattering, and I had witnessed it. But why invite me? Why not go to management or the press? I was press, sort of, but hardly the loudest megaphone in town. Maybe they wanted someone stubborn, unaffiliated, unlikely to bury an ugly truth in favour of ticket sales. At home, I opened my laptop and began a timeline. 12:45 p.m. Rosin box delivered to studio. Witness, stagehand Rico. 1 Zao 2:30, company class. 2:30, break. Lysandra seen repowdering shoes Thao Solo 7. Fall 4:15. Floor inspection. I added a new line. Unknown. Saboteur doctoring rosin. Every mystery boils down to access and motive. Access was easy in a rehearsal studio patrolled by underpaid interns. Motive would be harder. Who benefits from Lysandra's absence? Understudy? Dahlia Kwan, 23, brilliant but underpromoted. She'd be first to step into Odette's feathers. Rival danseur, sponsors? Or perhaps Lysandra herself, some insurance scam? No. I had watched her face when the ankle bent. That scream was authentic. I needed eyes inside. So the next morning I arrived with coffee and muffins, acting like a sympathetic journalist. Trauma unites people, and grief makes them careless. In the lobby, I found Rico, the stagehand, restringing lights. I offered him a banana walnut and asked about yesterday. Nobody saw nothing, he insisted. Could have been sweat on the floor. Except the smear was oily, I replied softly. I saw it too. He frowned, caught between loyalty and curiosity. Look, the rosin box sits by the piano. Anyone could walk up. A pause. Even you? Fair, but I didn't leave glycerin fingerprints. Rico chewed muffin thoughtfully. There's security footage. Beats me who can access it, though. Maybe Grace. Grace Tolliver, company manager, reputed computer geek. I thanked him and made my way upstairs to the administrative suite, balancing a spare latte. Grace sat at her desk, corralling spreadsheets. When I asked about footage, she sighed. Cameras only point at the entrance, not the rehearsal floor. But entrances tell their own story. She slid me a guest log. I scanned names, vendors, coaches, donors. One jumped out, C. Brandt, signed in at 12:38 p.m. yesterday, cleared to tech storage, Cassian Brandt. That name hummed with recent gossip. A choreographer whose last show imploded after he publicly blamed Lysandra for artistic sabotage. Their feud had trended for days. He was neither staff nor donor here. His presence was odd. Was Brandt invited? I asked. Grace's fingers drummed. Anton said he'd patch things up, let bygones be bygones. I wasn't thrilled. What time did he leave? She scrolled. No sign out. Maybe guard missed it. Or maybe he never left by the lobby. I pulled on the thread, searched social media, news clippings. Brandt's latest project had lost funding last month. Investors defected to Leland City Ballet's gala, featuring, of course, Lysandra. Resentment blooms fastest in drought. At noon, I received another envelope, slid beneath the studio door where I'd been scribbling notes. Same graphite strokes. Still think the swan slipped? Look beneath the powder, Ava. A friend of the floor beneath the powder, beneath the rosin, the granules. I hurried downstairs. Dahlia Kwan was rehearsing on a neighbouring floor, her technique sharp, shoulders tense. I crossed to the rosin tray. Fresh chunks gleamed. Some were the usual honey gold, others milky. I lifted a piece, soft, pliant. Real rosin snaps like sugar glass. These felt like stale marshmallow, Dahlia noticed. Something wrong? Maybe. I snapped the chunk. It bent. Has your footing felt off? She exhaled. Honestly, yes. Thought it was nerves. Together, we poured the tray onto a sheet of paper. Mixed among legitimate crystals were doctored pellets, rosin melted, blended with that glycerin concoction, then rehardened into counterfeit nuggets. Ingenious. Any dancer who crushed them would dust the floor with sabotage. Who prepares the trays? Dahlia asked. Usually interns, I said, though I knew that meant uncontrolled hands. But someone had tailored the mixture, ensured it looked real until pressure broke it. Back in my notebook, Brandt knows choreography, knows Lysandra's habits, has motive. But how does he enter tech storage, alter rosin, vanish? Also, who is my friend feeding me clues? Could be Dahlia, playing naïf, could be Grace, could be Rico. That evening, I donned black jeans and a rehearsal jacket and joined the 7 p.m. technical walkthrough, pretending to be part of the lighting crew. The warehouse labyrinth led from costume shop to prop cage to a closet labelled floor maintenance, keep locked. Its padlock hung open. Inside, shelves held gallon jugs, glycerol, mineral oil, turpentine, bingo. A sticky funnel lay in the sink, flecked with amber crumbs. Whoever brewed the sabotage had not cleaned thoroughly. I shot photos. Behind me, a floorboard creaked. I turned to see Anton Vega, arms folded. Ms. Meridian, is there a reason you're trespassing? His tone was silk over barbed wire. I squared my shoulders. I'm investigating yesterday's accident. Care to comment on these? I gestured to the jugs. He entered, closed the door, trapping us with the evidence. The fluorescent bulb hummed. I don't know what you think you've found, he said. The recipe for a broken ankle, I believe. I held up my phone. Why was Brandt in the building yesterday, Anton? His jaw tightened. Cassian is an old colleague. He came to discuss a possible collaboration. And to spike the Rosine? A muscle twitched near his temple. That would be extreme. Your star ballerina is out for weeks, maybe months. Ticket sales plummet, insurance compensates the company. You get a chance to reshape the season. Maybe with a new choreographer, maybe with you. I watched the idea land. Anton had always wanted to mount his own reinterpretation of Giselle. But suspicion is a kaleidoscope. Tilt it and patterns reconfigure. Suppose Anton didn't sabotage Lysandra. Suppose Brandt did, and Anton covered it to avoid scandal. Or vice versa. Motive nests inside motive. Anton stepped closer. You have no authority here. I have a newsletter, I said, and the city loves a scandal. When I publish photos of these jugs, the board will demand answers. His smile was thin. Then you should know the board already granted Brandt guest artist status this afternoon. Dahlia begins rehearsing his version of Swan Lake tomorrow. He opened the door. If you wish to destroy their chance at recovery, by all means. I slipped out, my pulse drumming. So Brandt benefits, Dahlia benefits. The company salvages a show instead of cancelling. Insurance likely covers Lysandra's contract. Follow the money and applause. Yet Anton's threat felt rehearsed. Too neat. On the sidewalk, I dialed Beatrice. Need another favour, I said. Can you match fingerprints from a plastic funnel to a name if I supply a print? I'm not FBI, Ava. Just tell me if two prints are the same. She sighed. Bring it. I spent midnight rummaging the building for Anton's coffee mug, Rico's flashlight, Brandt's visitor's badge, anything with finger oils. The custodian caught me climbing a filing cabinet. I bribed him with my last 20. At 2 a.m. I delivered the funnel and 3 comparison items to Beatrice. By dawn I had a text. Not Anton, not Rico. Prints match your visitor's badge guy. See Brandt. Evidence at last. That morning, the company gathered for a press conference to announce unexpected casting changes. I slipped into the auditorium's back row. On stage sat Grace, Anton, Dahlia, and Cassian Brandt, hair slicked back, expressions solemn. I recorded every word, waiting for the lie I could dismantle. They expressed heartbreak for Lysandra, optimism for Dahlia, excitement for new choreography. Brandt thanked the board for trust. When Q&A opened, I stood. Ava Meridian, independent critic, I said. Mr. Brandt, were you in the floor maintenance closet yesterday, mixing rosin with glycerin? Murmurs rippled. Brandt blinked hard. I have no idea what you're insinuating. I continued, voice steady. I possess photographic evidence of tampered rosin and a chemical analysis linking it to substances in that closet. Your fingerprints are on the funnel used. Dancer's safety was jeopardized. Ms. McHale may never perform the same again. Should she thank you for her forced retirement? The auditorium erupted, as if I'd detonated a firework indoors. Brandt surged to his feet. This is outrageous. I demand you leave. But Dahlia's gaze had sharpened. She whispered to Grace. Grace typed something on a tablet, turned the screen toward Anton. He blanched. I think we'd better pause, Anton said into the mic. 2 security guards approached me. I handed them a flash drive. Contains lab reports and photos, I said. Also, watch the lobby footage from 1 p.m. You'll see Mr. Brandt carrying a crate to tech storage. Grace reached for the drive. The guards escorted Brandt toward the wings. He protested, voice cracking. I gathered my tote, satisfied the avalanche was in motion. Outside, my phone pinged. A final envelope rested atop the newspaper vending box. The note read, Truth like resin only sticks if you grind it in. Thank you. A friend of the floor. I smiled despite exhaustion. Maybe my informant was Grace, who had access to schedules and footage. Maybe it was Dahlia, hedging bets. Maybe Rico, protective of his floor. I could chase that mystery later. The article I published that afternoon travelled fast. Ballet sabotage. Rival choreographer arrested. Sponsors issued statements. Dancers posted photos of battered pointe shoes with captions about resilience. The city, hungry for narrative, gobbled every crumb. At 8 p.m. I visited Mercy Orthopedic. Lysandra lay in a boot cast, eyes sharpening when she saw me. "You were there," she said. "And I will be again when you return," I replied, placing a single unsabotaged rosin crystal on her bedside tray, evidence that the floor, like the truth, could still be trusted when tended by the right hands. She laughed, a brittle sound, but real. Outside her window, street lamps turned the rain to ribbons of gold. A critic is supposed to stand apart, chronicling art from the safe ridge of observation. Yet sometimes the story yanks you into its heart, demands you pirouette between danger and disclosure. I thought of the anonymous notes and recognized a kinship, somebody else who couldn't bear to watch beauty destroyed by greed. As I left the ward, I felt the city's pulse hum beneath the concrete, a great stage, forever in need of witnesses who refuse to sit quietly when the floor itself conspires. Tomorrow my inbox would refill with invites. The show, whatever shape it took, would go on. And I, friend of the floor in my own right, would be there, ready to grind the rosin.